that thing. We're going to have quite a few people out today for various reasons. Sharon, for one, will be gone both this time and for the PPACG meeting on October 9th. So let's start with introductions. We'll go that way, Jessica.
Jessica McMullen, Policy and Communications with Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments.
John DeVoe, Woodland Park.
Gordon Childers, Citizen at Large.
Julie Ott, League of Women Voters.
Kim Mutchler, at large.
Ann Ish, Green Mountain Falls.
Tim O'Donnell with Kono, and in the gallery.
Paul Neiman with CDOT.
John Santos, PPACG.
Melissa with the Pikes Peak Area Agency on Aging.
Good. I think we got everybody. We want to move on to the consent items. We're going to do them in a block. However, we have a change to the agenda. We would like to move 5A, the CDOT update, up to 2D, so we have it right after the consent items, 3 prime, 2D. So, and remove the photo. We are not doing the photo this time. We will wait until we have more of a critical mass, as they used to say.
So no photo?
I know. Why were you here, right? Okay, so does anybody have any other changes or modifications to the agenda, the minutes, or the financial report? So could I have a motion to approve the consent items with the change of 5A moving up? Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. And opposed? All right. You are on.
Good afternoon.
That would be.
There we go. All right. Well, good afternoon. My name is Paul Neiman. I'm with CDOT. I'm the CDOT project director for the I-25 South Gap project. So I appreciate you letting me go first. My kids are all in the homecoming parade this afternoon. I have 2 sets of twins, 2 that are 16, 2 that are 14. They're all in the parade.
Oh,
so I'm going to try and get back to that somehow, but I got to get through that Gap project. Get back. So I'm going to try and make this quick. And I put this presentation together, not meaning to talk about all the slides, but just to give you guys some frame of reference here about accidents in the Gap and what the rates are, what's going on there, what I think I'm seeing as being out there every day. And so a lot of this came up from this article here from the Gazette. They found some data from CSP that said, oh, the accidents are going crazy in the Gap area. So I kind of tried to, there's some quotes here from the CSP about really it's a lot of behavior, what's going on that we cannot change, which causes a lot of accidents. So what I did is this is the data that they had, and so I took it and kind of just went through a little bit, and I'm not going to go through all this data with you guys because this data will get intense, really. It's traffic data that really I cannot analyze completely. We need a traffic engineer to analyze. This is data that they provided. The couple notes I wanted to say on this is the mile markers, where they put the data from, which is from 161 through 181, which is the entire project limits, and they only took September to May data. So what they're looking at is 559, these numbers here that are increasing. So they see the 790 is the increase, is what they're calling, is what they're saying, oh, that's a big spike and increase in accidents. So the problem with this is where we're at in construction, is the project responsible for this? And all of that really is hard to conclude. We don't know. And, without a doubt, the accidents are not going down during our construction process. We've done a lot of things to that road. So I would not conclude that accidents have gone down. I'm sure they've probably gone up in some ways. Have the severities changed? There's a lot of ways to look at this data and try and understand what they're coming up with. And the problem with this data is this is CSP data, right? This is now CDOT data. CDOT is actually the collector of all the CSP, all the data on the interstate systems we collect. We put it together, we analyze it, and then code it certain ways. So what CSP gave us is just uncoded raw data for this whole area. We don't know where the locations are. Now, we've got it for the whole years, and it's different data. So we've got it by year. They've got it by 9 months. And so trying to compare it, I put this together just to say, oh, let me see if I can compare this. there's really, I cannot compare it because they have 9 months of data, we have full year data. We also are collecting data on the project since we started our courtesy patrols, which is our tow trucks, are required to log every type of incident they come upon, an accident or just assist a motorist on towing or something like that. So the key here, some of this is when we start a construction, which is this down in here. So if you look, we start the package 1, which is the northern part of the project, which is not the complete 161 to 181 mile markers, right? We were at 174 to 179 only from September through December. So their data is capturing 790 crashes. Well, those could have, a lot of them were south of where we were actually at in construction. So who knows what was going on there? Really, that's business as usual down there. We weren't even impacting that area yet. We were completely in the northern part of the project, 6 miles, until December 1 when we started putting barrier and things into the southern part of the project. So December 1, we start package 2, which is the Greenland area, basically, the southern half of it. And then in May, we started this third package, which is the complete middle. So remember, their data is going from September through May, and it shows 790 wrecks, but it doesn't show it by the packager. So CDOT tried to do some of that. So like I said, you look at this here, and the numbers are all over because it's also the way they're recorded. Don't know what kind of injuries those are, where they're at, locations. So all this, my attempt here is to confuse you somewhat because it's confusing. There's no way to analyze it. And so that's the whole point of the articles when people are releasing data. Until it's been analyzed by CDOT, it's truly the only apples-to-apples comparison of things. Now, like I said, there's probably no doubt the accidents have risen somewhat, but what are we doing with that is kind of the real question I put at the bottom. What are the impacts? What impacts has the project had on crash rates, right? Because now we're fully under construction. It's probably the better question. Are we adding to the accidents? There's a lot of other things. The other key thing here is the AADT, right? The average annual daily traffic. The increase in that there's a trend here. If you look at CDOT's data, let me get this pointer here. If you look at the CDOT data, and I was going to show you, where are we looking at? Here's injury crashes from CDOT. This is what you can see them kind of going up a little bit in numbers here. 274, 133 is. This last line is because we don't have complete data. This is just 2 months of this year. So, but if you look at the total crash data, right, it's total crash 304, it's rising, 724. It's been doing that. It does that according with the traffic volumes are increasing. So we know it's going to happen. So again, they're not going to go down. I mean, our hope is at the end of this we can level it out because we'll have much better facilities and much wider shoulders and a lot of safety improvements. But like I said, it's non-conclusive because now we're in construction. Whatever we're comparing to, we're not comparing to 11-foot lanes with 2-foot shoulders, different scenario and stuff. So this is what CDOT tried to do. We tried to analyze just this package here from 174 to 179, and it did show the analysis of package 1 showed a little evident of increase of accidents in that from September timeline when we started through the end of the year. It showed, you can see, and what it's showing is the graph just starts to spike up a little bit. So it shows a little increase of accidents relative to the construction project. Is that more or less? There's just a lot of, like I said, it's data that's hard to just describe here really quick and just give yep, their accidents are up and not know any of the background behind it. So this is the other analysis for the southern part of it, which is what the CSP data had from until May. So this is basically for the southern part that we start December through May. And this one was not conclusive. We didn't see any impacts there. It kind of was straight line. It just kind of stayed the same in the southern part of the project for the same time as what the CSP data. So, and up till then, CDOT's data takes about 6 months to get in. We're about 3 months behind now. We used to be a year. We're about 3 months, I think, behind in taking the data in from CSP, what they report to the Treasury, and taking that data, analyzing it, and correctly categorizing it into the right types of property damage, fatalities, other instances. There's wildlife hits. We take all those different types of hits, put them together because we use that data year in and year out to analyze if there's actually a increase or decrease in safety on a certain section of highway, and that's how we approach to get federal dollars for money. If we see a spike in problems in safety, then we can use those numbers there. So again, CDOT's data is really the only apples-to-apples comparison. CSP had other numbers that didn't match anything. Our data that we collect, like I said, too now, is even different data because we're only there 12 to 15 hours a day collecting this data, so we're missing some of the weekends. We added we missed some of the stuff maybe down south when we were only in the northern part of it. So overall, like I said, I really can't conclude that it's up or down, but without a doubt in my gut feeling, I'm sure it's at least the same rate. And this is one thing that I had pulled early on in the project, which was accident data history from CDOT's data that shows it's a 3-year period, basically, and it shows from 2015 to 2017. And basically, it just showed over here this kind of this conclusion here. It's just a one conclusion of many numbers that we get. But it showed there was 1,580 crashes, incidents in that quarter in those 3-year period. So, if you just did some simple math here, it shows us we have about 1.4 incidents a day on average from those 3 years there every day in that quarter. And so I took that number. So is that kind of our, we're trying to use that as a marker. And we do have about an accident a day. We still have an accident. Sometimes we have 2 or 3 accidents a day. And most days we don't have an accident. So this is what we're using to kind of gauge from Courtesy Patrol what Courtesy Patrol is collecting and how we're thinking about it and how we're looking at some stuff. So the bigger question now and all that, like I said, is what are we doing on the project? And we're doing a lot of things. And I'm not going to bore you with all these things here, but I'm just going to show you some pictures here so I can get done here quickly. But, any questions you guys want to ask. But this is a lot of things that we're doing on the project right here. We, of course, all CDOT projects have a traffic management plan. It's required us to have these 3 components here, really, and then we've added these additional components. And so the other thing in here is look at some of the numbers. Some of the numbers I put in, these are projected costs that we're going to spend on this job to try and help safety on this project here and make sure. So with all these tools in our toolbox, basically, it's nearing this $41 million in projected costs that we're going to spend just on safety to the public that we're trying to implement here. So, and all of that is in these things here. This PR efforts, the strategy that we do by not closing lanes during the day, those are things we're implementing to help the commuters get through. We've got 6-inch striping. We've got, this picture back here, this is our operations center that we have on our project. It looks like a mini Golden kind of where we have an operator sitting here. He's got access to these cameras and he's got radios there. He can control the cameras and he can call out to our Courtesy Patrol drivers. We have 2 Courtesy Patrol, which is the tow trucks, that can respond. So we can call them. They're only for our project to get out there. So we've done that, and that's been a huge help because, like I said, it's also part of our Smart Work Zone system, which is another one of our things. The Smart Work Zone system comprised of these kind of technologies, these changeable message signs, the changeable speed limit signs, just a ton of things. We've added law enforcement 7 days a week, right? That's one of our biggest things to help compliance with all of our traffic control devices. We actually added them 7 days a week to 25. We have them on the frontage road up there in Castle Rock, and we've added them out to 83 because we know people are detouring unofficially out there to 83. The project is not detouring them out there, and we've learned that. One of the bigger things we've done is these biweekly emergency meetings. Every 2 weeks we meet with emergency responders, all of Castle Rock, Tri-Lakes, Douglas County, CSP. We meet with everybody to tell them what's going on with the project. How can we help them? What can we do with you? What can Kramer, my contractor, provide to help you in an incident? Can we do anything? We just give them updates and we go back and forth. A lot of things, we learn a lot of strategies in what they do. And one of the strategies is keeping traffic on I-25 because when they divert, there's no good place they can go. It just jams every other corridor up to get to 83 or 105. So we've learned quick clearance out of that. They've given us permission to use the tow trucks, quickly clear a vehicle. You don't have to wait for law enforcement. Get them out of the way if there's no criminal activity going on, things like that. So we're working closely with them to try and, with the operations center that coordinates with them. So, there's just a lot of things here in our tool bag or our laundry list. I keep calling a couple different names that we have to go to try and help us out on the project here. So this is kind of the bigger thing here. So this is how we track. This is what we're tracking Courtesy Patrol, is what they're giving us information. We're going through this. We're trying to chart some of these things and look for some trends because trends is hard. Like I said, CDOT takes a year to get this data back to figure out if there's a trend, something going on. We're tracking every month and we're trying to put it together and trying to look at like these spikes, what's going on here, and adjusting our work zone to that thing. However, the work zone adjusts every single day. We're moving barrier and changing and shifting traffic. So we're trying to correlate something, but it's difficult. But we're at least trying to take this step right now, monthly, weekly, trying to look at trends, the feel of the project. People are out there, hey, what's going on? Why are we keep having wrecks at 174? Can we add sign? Do we need to fix alignment, something? So we're doing that. We're also adding now some of the detection methods here of how quickly and who's detecting these accidents so we can get to them quicker and get them out of the way. So this is where I get my real measurement from, gut feeling of what we're doing out here. And this is our snapshot here. We've had 1,233 incidents. This is as of August 25th. That's how many incidents the Courtesy Patrol has reported and documented that they've assisted with. So of that, 372 of those have been crashes, 860 have been stopped, just stopped vehicles, whatever that is. One of them was some debris picked up that he logged. So the 372, we've been on, as of this date, we've been on a project 354 days. So, all right, we're a little below one a day on what we're seeing, right? Remember, we're not there all the time. So that's where I'm looking for that 1.44 average a day. Well, are we hitting that? Not sure. I know this is not complete data. I know we're getting somewhere in that range. So relative to the project that's going, if we stay at 1.44, to me that's kind of a win because we have so much stuff out there on the project. 18 miles has changed. The other part of this is this 860 stop vehicles. Those are assists that we've helped with that who knows what accidents we prevented by doing that, right? We are dedicated to getting those guys off the road quicker. That could have prevented, probably not, but it probably could have prevented 860 secondary wrecks due to somebody stalled who's not right. We don't know. We'll never know that number, what we're doing. So we're proactive as much as we can. All accidents are reactive. We just got to wait for them and try and respond and do what we can. But just this is really what we're looking at on the project to try and micro in on what we can do out there. This is just some of the devices we have out there too. We've got these couple signs on both ends of the project, couple in the middle. These are real-time smart boards that we can control right in the office. We can change them at any time. So if there is an accident, we will change them to say accident 174. We won't say detour, but we'll just try and give information, you know, of what's going on. So people, besides the text alert and all the PR campaign and all the other stuff that goes out, you know, we've got these 60s represent the PVSLs. Those are the portable variable speed limit signs. So if there's an accident in this area northbound, we can come back here and start slowing the speed limit down to try and keep people from secondary incidents and stuff. So, you know, it doesn't work always that smooth. We've got some manual things to do, and we've got people that got to call in communication. But these are our attempts. We haven't done these smart work zone systems much on any CDOT projects, and to the level where we've developed this operations center in our field office there that we can control stuff. So we're somewhat experimental, but we're trying all kinds of different things, and we have all kinds of other little systems with that. There's additional cameras that come with the smart work zone system where we have blind spots where we can't see with the permanent CDOT cameras. We can add those in. We had queue detection, so if there does slowdowns, we can have a sign automatically say slow down ahead. So just a lot of different things in this 18 miles. So that's really it. Unless you guys have questions, like I said, it's just a lot of data stuff. But
I have a question about trucks and, is there a way that we could keep the trucks, the semi-trucks, in the right lane so that they don't have access to both lanes?
So that, you know, I think that, you know, I grew up in California where they're restricted to the right two lanes, right? But what I remember, and I used to be in traffic a long time ago, I remember was we tried to do that, do a restriction on the motor carriers, and they just fired back at us big time, would not have any of it, and they are like a huge lobby group that would not allow anything. We tried to restrict them in downtown Denver area, I-25, to the right two lanes, and the signs were up for about like 3 days, I think, 4 days, and then they made us pull them because of whatever politics were going on with that. Like I said, they're a force to be reckoned with, the Motor Carrier Association. So
I mean, it just is because, as you know, it's the gain in elevation.
yes,
It just would make sense. And they create more problems by trying to pass and not knowing that it's a pass,
Agree.
you know.
agree. Yeah, they just sit there
So
trying
if- Yeah, so if we can't restrict them during you can't even do that during a construction zone, like trucks stay right, or people with a trailer stay right?
You know, it's a question I can ask, but I almost already know, and I mean, we can maybe suggest that or something to, you know, trucks stay in the right lane, but not make it enforceable, you know, to see which ones would comply. But it's, I think CDOT has gone through that battle before. It's more of you guys telling us if we can do it or not, and, you know, other committees and things telling us and making the Motor Carrier Association agree to that, because I think they're no way they won't want to be restricted in any way and stuff, is from what I've heard before from many meetings. So, but
Okay. Well,
not that I can't try. We can look at something. So
It would help.
Yes.
And then the other piece of it is when there's there were a couple times when it just came to a complete stop because of snow. Is there a way you can shut down I-25 and just say,
So, and that.
You're not going anywhere anyway?
Yes. So that was one thing, lesson learned last year from that bomb cyclone, that we are kind of wondering why we didn't shut down faster. So that is a lessons learned. We're going to try and shut that road down as fast as we can. We're in that 18, I have plenty of staff there, and there are 40, 50 people that on my side staff that can get out to those gates, shut down. We need CDOT and CSP really calls it to shut that down, but we have, in fact, tomorrow we have a meeting with all of them to start talking about winter operations and what we're going to do, and that exact point right there is just shut it down as quick as we can, better than having 200 vehicles stranded on the highway. Just shut it down and make them go somewhere else. So we're going to do that for sure this year if we get another bomb cyclone.
Well, I don't think it was the first one, but it was the second one, and we got stuck in that.
Oh, yeah.
6 hours.
Yeah.
It's no fun.
It has been tough. It's tough to get around in there, and we know we're working with the fire departments for sure just to try and get in and out of there and get access. It's tough.
I was just going to add on to that. The problem with that, though, is you got to get 83 to shut down, and you got to get 105 to shut down too. Otherwise, they're just going to move, and those are worse roads than being on being on I-25. With the policemen, I just happen to have driven this stretch a lot frequently in the last month, and I normally don't, but I have. And I haven't seen any policemen, but then I also know I've been lucky enough most of the time to be traveling at times when there wasn't a big backup, which means people are flying at 75. And I'm not seeing a policeman at all. So are they just having a presence? Are they actually writing tickets? If they have a place that they can pull somebody over and write a ticket and have everybody else see that? Because it's cars flying on these curves. Scaring me way more than the semis, and normally it's a semi.
So I've seen that. I don't drive it that much. The couple times I have driven it, I've seen them out there, and you know, we get their timesheets, so they're telling us they're out there 8 hours, but of course it's 18 miles to drive through. So they do have an issue with trying to pull people over inside of the work zone because the limited shoulders. They're there to kind of have some compliance to get everybody to 60. You know, that's another one of these safety things. We try to drop the speed limit to 60, but it's hard to get compliance with that because and we think we're getting about 70 miles an hour through there, which is better than 75 or 80 because we had it at 65 and we were getting 75, 80. So maybe we got 5 more miles, but it's in certain areas. On the southern end seems a little faster. The northern end, they're doing about 65 and they're 70. So it's tough, but they're enforcing. We have 2 types out there, right? We have the ones that are in the white cars that sit in the work zones. Those are our UTCs that are there for the lane closure to highlight that up. Then we actually have CSP contracted, so they are enforcing. Those white cars don't enforce. They just sit there to scare people and slow them down is what their job is, and that's usually what we get compliance. People will slow down to these lane closures or whatever we're doing, but they're actually out there enforcing. So they're supposed to be. It's hard to question them with their guns. You know, they don't like it when you talk bad to them. So I try to be nice to them.
I had one more question, or actually just a statement, I guess. I follow a lot, because I'm in the Tri-Lakes area, so there's a lot of people I talk to in the Larkspur area. And a lot of those people are actually communicating with each other that instead of going Highway 105, which a lot of them do, they're actually going back to the freeway. And the reason being is when the accidents are happening on 83 and 105, they are deadly accidents. There are people dying on those side streets. And so whereas there's more probably fender benders going on. I missed the beginning part. I'm sorry. I don't know if there have been any deaths.
I don't know off of 83 or fender benders in here.
I mean on I-25.
So what I know, we've had 3 fatalities, okay? Those 3 fatalities, one was down at 105 where it was a medical condition. The guy ran off and hit the abutment, and so he was outside of our work zone. We had one on the frontage road. 2 guys were stuck on I-25. They jumped over the frontage road to go to the bathroom in the field. They came back across the frontage. They got hit on the frontage road. One of them got hit on the frontage road and died. The third one was one that was outside of our work zone, too, was at Upper Lake Gulch, was a suicide, they believe. A kid jumped in front of a box truck right there at Upper Lake Gulch, and that was it. So those are the 3 that I know of. I have not heard of anything else in here that's been construction-related or due to just a wreck on a regular day or something like that. It's been
on I-25, yeah.
On I-25.
But I've heard there was motorcyclists on 83. There was someone that I knew, someone that I knew that had one on 105. So they're actually they were telling people just bite the dust and fight the
And
whatever.
that's
and
where
go
we're at.
I-25 because it's actually safer than taking the side roads.
That's exactly our message, why we have no detours. There's no detours to 83, 83 or 105. And we're not pushing them in. We won't tell them detour. The media, however, does say that. Every time there is
Constantly.
something, the media.
Constantly.
Yeah, so we're trying to work with them, but the media is the media. You know, they say what they want to say on things. But we are working with them with our PR stuff. Yeah.
So do you interact, because I know you have the CDOT app, but there's Waze, there's Apple Maps, Google Maps.
Yes.
Do you interface with those?
So CoTrips is ours, right? CoTrips, we can control. The CTMC out in Golden puts the messages up there, alerts. But Golden and Waze, they won't listen to us at all. So we contact them constantly, trying to see if, let them know what's going on, but they insist their algorithms show the best route, and they're not going to change for anybody or anything. So I'm just driving through with Google, and they don't have the speed limit right, because now they added the speed limit. They don't have any, and we consistently, but it's hard to find somebody at Google. We've had better success with Waze to kind of let them know there's a closure or something. Right now, we're closing frontage roads, and but even that's not on there on that. So we do the PR department. Like I said, I'm spending like $1.5 million just in PR, just trying to blast those guys every day. And my PR guys are just the girls. Ladies are all over that and stuff. So, but it's tough with them. They're too big to listen to us. So.
Okay, Ann, did you have a question?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I
Oh, okay.
don't.
John?
Are any of the statistics that you're talking about include 83 and 105?
No.
So do we know what kind of increases in accidents have happened on those two roads as a result of the gap?
We would know on 83 in a year here, right? Once we gather all the year
That really
data.
helps.
That would tell us something there, but I need CDOT again and the traffic engineers there to analyze that data to see what's going. We do have a study because we know accident rates have gone up on that road already also, just like everywhere. So
Everybody uses that, and if you tell people to take that adds a sense of responsibility, and that's one of the reasons you stay away from that.
Yep, and like I said, that's why the project's not doing that. We're not telling them anywhere, but we know Google, Waze will send them there, or people will just go where they want to go.
It would think that the Colorado Springs area, Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments, would promote shopping down here, and don't go to Denver until the damn thing's done. And I'm serious.
Yeah.
I'm really serious. We got plenty of retail and shopping down there. That would take some of the load off there. And the people up in Monument, Larkspur, they come down here. Something like that. And have a marketing campaign with the chamber, if they ever come to our meetings, to actually do that. Shop Colorado Springs. Shop the area of Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments.
I can tell you that the airport long-term parking was jammed full yesterday. So Colorado Springs Airport's benefiting, that's for sure.
And that's great that that's happening. I'm not going to go up that highway unless it's a medical emergency until the damn thing's done.
Yeah.
It's not worth it.
All right. Paul, are they on schedule?
Yeah.
Are you guys on schedule?
The project. I'm like, yes, I'm on. The project, yes. I'm on schedule to get home
23 or
in time. Yes.
24, somewhere in there.
No, the project's on schedule still. We have 3 different completion kind of dates, and an overall, that 2022 date you might have heard is kind of the final finish. That's really the final tolling testing. But as I've been telling everyone, really 2021, December of 2021, everybody's going to think we're done, but we're not, because we're going to have all the pavement done and the median barrier and everything. But we're still waiting for the toll testing stuff and all that thing, all the stuff that goes along with that takes like 3 weeks at each location, and they've got all kinds of things to do there. And plus, in 2022, what happened is we found more problems with the pavement, so we actually have to do a little bit more milling on the pavement, the existing pavement. So that pushed our SMA paving, which is our last final lift of paving, the riding surface. We can only do that between May and October every year. That's the only time they make that material. So that pushes, we're not going to be able to get it done at the end of 2021. So we'll have the other layers, which is, it's made up of 12 inches of HMA material. All that will be in place. It'll look like all the paint's there. Most people will never know we're not done, and you're not going to see, there's not a bump because it's like a 2-inch lift that we need to complete in that area. It'll be a smooth transition, but it'll look like we're done. But we need to come back at night in 2022 and pave that final lift and let 470 do their thing that they do to test and integrate all of the systems that we have out there, check communication on it. So we're on schedule right now. The weather has caused us a few days here and there, but we've made up with other parts, so technically, we're on schedule right now. We've got a lot of time to make up any stuff with some paving. We've got 100,000 tons of asphalt down of the 800,000 tons we have to do. So it's going to go quicker now. We're patching up. We're getting things paved. The first lifts now, we won't have the problems with the rain messing up our subgrade, the dirt, and destroying that. That's what's throwing us out a little bit on some things. But we're on schedule right now as far as our schedule still says we're on schedule, and our intuition, we know we're on schedule. So
I did think of a question. Are the workers safe? You know,
the concrete barrier is what they like. Why we've lined this whole corridor with this concrete barrier. I mean, we have 163,000 feet of this stuff out there, and that's what they want to keep them safe. That's what we need to keep them safe. So they feel safer with that for sure. So I think, and we've had pretty good safety record. You know, we've had a few toes and finger cuts, little things like that, but so far we've had nothing else going wrong with the safety on the project.
Because that's always an issue with.
It is. It is with the travel. You know,
people
the volumes you see are hitting 80,000 vehicles a day coming through there in the summer months, the peak period times. You know, it's about 70,000 in the winter, but it's tough trying to build that much around that much traffic at all times. But Kramer's doing a pretty good job mitigating that and keeping safe. They got a really high safety record. So
that's good.
Okay, Donna?
Yeah, one question. As you go through the GAP project, obviously it's conserved land on both sides, and one of the things that happens when there's a lot of road construction in different places is the advent of a lot of noxious weeds. And so I was wondering what your plan is for revegetating that area, and is there an opportunity to increase like wildflower seeding along that area?
So I don't know for sure. I know we have an extensive plan to revegetate, reseed. We have these wild seed mixes and different things we will do. Anything we've disturbed, we're required to seed and reestablish, right? So I don't know what that mix is per se, if it's wildflowers or our environmental team picks all that, or our landscape architect picks those types of things. But they also, remember, pick things that are less maintenance too and no water. So the things that will survive. So I don't know if those are water free. I don't know exactly. So, but guaranteed we have a huge landscape plan to in the end of this whole project to landscape everything back and revegetate for sure. So I don't know if we're putting trees back or anything. You know, we took down some trees here and there, but I don't know if we're putting trees back. Sometimes we put them back depending on where we're at in district stuff, but I don't think we're putting trees back. Mostly it's all just covering with seed and native type seeds and stuff. So I don't know, you want me to look into that more for you? Or?
Well, if you can direct me to somebody else.
Okay. Yeah.
Or if I can look at it on the website.
I don't know if the website would have it, but you see my information here, and if you go to the website or anything like that, you'll find, I don't know if you'll find my name there, because they usually just have it roll to the hotline, but someone actually, our PR person answers that. So if you call in, there's actually Caroline there. She answers that typically or gets back to you. So if you call that hotline, and that'll be on the website to call in and ask that, we'll get the answer to you for sure. So.
Okay, any other questions for Paul, so he can escape? All right.
10 minutes
thanks. There you
All
go.
right. Well, thank you guys.
Yep.
Appreciate it. Yep. Thank you for inviting me.
And I'm assuming we're going to have that available on the...
Yep, we'll be emailing it out to everybody.
Yeah, it's,
All right.
Jessica has that.
Okay, good.
presentation.
Let's move on to 4A, action items, 2045 draft for public release.
Good afternoon, Katherine Wenger, PPACG, Transportation Planner. So once again, I'm up here to talk about the 2045 drafts document. This time it's going to go for public release, so we've had the opportunity to share the draft chapters with all of our committees. They provided some comments and suggestions and edits, and we incorporated those into our draft. And so we brought them back for you to check those out one more time. And so now we're bringing the document back to you to release to the public, or to the general public, for our 30-day public comment period. And we also have a couple of open houses that we will be doing as well. And so we haven't received any new comments over the last month. So we haven't made any changes to the document if you would have seen it in the last month or so. And then, just as an FYI, we have 2 open houses coming up, and sorry, I didn't have should have brought the flyer for you, but we'll be sending it out over our website and public, and our social media as well. And so the first open house is going to be October 15th here at PPACG from 4 to 6 p.m. And then we also have one on Saturday the 19th, which will be at Sand Creek Library, and that'll be from noon until 2. And then we will also have an open online comment opportunity as well for anyone in the general public to comment online. So just as an FYI, that will be available as well. And so that's what you'll be releasing this draft to, so that we can make this available to everyone.
Okay, so is it available now? Is it up on the site now?
It is not. It will be, oh, sorry, that's a good point. The actual comment period begins after the board approves for public release. So it begins October 10th. We're hoping once they approve. October 10th would be the first day, and it runs through November 8th. And so it will be up on the website once the board approves it.
Okay, so what they're looking for here is a proposal to recommend that the 2045 draft be released for public comment. So are there any questions for Catherine? Any other comments? We've all had several months to look at this thing, give input. So do I have a motion? Julie?
I'll move that we, recommend the draft for public release.
Okay. Second for Kim. All approved? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. And just a quick note, once we receive all the public comments, then we'll bring them back to you again for another round of, here's what we received, let us know if we need to make adjustments or if we can, and then those will go back to the board a couple times before final approval of the entire plan, and it'll become the final document. Thank you.
All right. On to 4B,
Okay.
Transit and Roadway Development Program Prioritization.
So last year, I'm not sure if everyone was here last year, we were asked by CDOT, Transit and CDOT Roadway, our Region 2, to come up with a couple of lists, our development priority lists, for projects that could move if some money became available. Before then, last year it was some ballot measures that were brought to the public, and so if that money would have been approved, then we would have a list of projects that our region had prioritized for funding. Unfortunately, it didn't pass, but it's still a good practice to have these projects in line in case money becomes available. And as far as the roadway project list that you see in your packet, we do have some, I think it's SB 267 funds from the Senate that have become available. And so CDOT has asked us to reprioritize the project list from last year based on things that have gotten completed or priorities that have changed, so that we can potentially use some of that Senate Bill 267 money. And then as far as the transit projects that they're asking us to prioritize, that's based on they want to make sure that they keep their statewide plan up to date and have the highest priority for the region in their plan as well.
So one clarification here. When does this have to be approved by the board?
It has to be approved in October, so.
It has to be approved in October?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's so that it can go to the Transportation Committee, the Colorado Transportation Committee with CDOT in November. And so we have to get our recommendation out in October.
So can you give us the Reader's Digest version of this?
Sure, yeah. And the handouts you
What's
just
changed?
received, sure. Those are the updated lists. The ones in your packet were the last year's list. So in general, the transit list, which is a little bit longer, it's been updated to reflect what was identified through our long-range plan process and Mountain Metro Transit. And so there's not a lot of change there, a little bit of shifting priorities. I'm trying to remember what he said on that one. And then items to reflect things like the ITS enhancements and some studies that they want to do. And so really, if you saw our 2045 long-range plan priority list, it also kind of reflects that as well, so that there's not a huge change there. For the roadway project list, it's a bit shorter, and it's the one that has kind of, I think,
Yeah, these are kind of hard to read, but
Sure.
nothing was eliminated,
I don't.
or is that true?
I don't think so, not unless it was completed, so
Okay,
using
so
other
nothing was
funding.
eliminated unless it was completed, and then the rest of it was just shuffled based on the priority.
Yes, and so TAC has seen it, and CDOT, especially for the roadway, CDOT provided us with what they consider the high priorities for the region based on what they've heard from their community meetings, or the regional meetings, and then we brought it to TAC, and they added a couple, or did a couple of changes based on their suggestions. And so the priorities come from multiple different meetings that CDOT's had, and then also our TAC as well. But, so I think there might have been a few additions to the list, but not necessarily deletions.
I know it's a little bit difficult, because we didn't get the stuff in the packet, and this is very difficult to read, and there's a lot of stuff here. But this has to be, basically has to be approved now, right?
Yes, unfortunately, it was time crunch that we received it, and we had to kind of put it through quickly to make sure that we get it to the Transportation Commission. Otherwise, they don't receive our regional priority lists, and then they might not make selections based on what we see as a priority, or not we, PPACG, but the region as a whole. I can kind of go through the top ones of the.
Yeah, if we could
Of
go
the
through
roadway,
the
if that
top,
helps?
top dollar ones
Sure.
that got shifted up or down.
Okay, so for the roadway list, and that has the draft, that's the shorter one that has kind of the lines. There, I don't know if yours is in color, but it would have been in color, but our copier was having issues. So it has kind of like stripes on it. And so the top one there is the State Highway 21 and Research Interchange. And so that was the top regional priority, and it stayed there from the TAC recommendation at least. The next one is State Highway 94, I-25, and South Academy MAMSIP project. And that is part of a build grant that was also applied for by the state. And then number 3 is the I-25 Colorado Springs ramp metering, Phase 2. Phase 1 was already approved and has started construction, actually. They're putting in the part of that already. And so Phase 2 would add more. Number 4 was Fillmore to Garden of the Gods concrete overlay with auxiliary lanes. And that one was actually moved up from the line before, from TAC, and it was below the line. And then there's State Highway 21 and Airport, the Diverging Diamond Interchange, that's what that DDI stands for. And then there's US 24 East widening from Garrett to Stapleton. And those are the ones that they identified as top for the region, and then it goes down from there. It was also requested that the first item below that line, State Highway 21 and Dublin Boulevard, grade separated interchange, was moved up probably about 4 spaces from original presentation from CDOT. And the transit one, I'm not exactly sure how much movement happened there. So I can't really say how much that changed necessarily, but it didn't change too much. And the top priority there, they're showing as bus stops, ADA compliance, and accessibility projects are their top priorities there, and then ITS enhancements and their planning studies as well. And then what Brian talked about, I think, to you guys before, is that transit center relocation. That's also on their top of their list, which I think has moved up.
Any discussion? What about the the interchange that was on the news the other day that we were briefed on, that's going to be near North Gate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it's the exit to nowhere because it really doesn't go anywhere.
Yes,
It
for
doesn't
now.
connect the powers, right?
For now, not yet, yes. That is the first stage, is to get that interchange in, because the developers in the area are putting in private funds for that. And so that's not going to be in here because it already has identified funding, at least for that phase, that interchange. So these projects are ones that don't have identified funding yet, and we're putting them into these lists so that if funding becomes available, then we can have them. Right, John? I think.
Did you say that, on this one,
Mm-hmm.
TBD means to be decided? Is that what that means?
Yes, to be determined.
To be determined?
Yeah. So essentially, it's that larger section below. It doesn't necessarily mean those are in prioritized order, but they kind of are. So it could move up or down based on priorities.
Oh, okay. Waiting for funding?
Yeah. None of these have funding at the moment.
Oh, okay.
So this is just the priority list when funding becomes available?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, all right. So
We
these aren't,
want to be ready if they find money for us, kind of thing.
okay. Julie?
It looks like there's some very good things to find funding for.
Yes.
One question would be, number 1 talks about the ADA barriers at bus stops and installing improvements. Number 23, it's sourced from a different plan, it looks like. But that's systematic bus stop access improvements for, what is it, 7 bus routes. Do you know if, bus stop access for the routes. So I have to wonder if they overlap at all. And has anyone looked at overlapping the projects for efficiency?
I'm not sure what that does entail, at least number 23.
Right.
I
It's not as
imagine
thorough.
it's a little bit different than just strictly ADA compliance, because that is a top priority, is to get ADA compliant for the region. John, I don't think we know. I can ask MMT about that, but.
So, and again, I was not at the meeting on Thursday, but what is what's the difference between ADA compliance and access?
And then just access improvements, yeah.
So, and again, I don't know the specific one, so I'll be talking generalities. And hi, Jess, for the record, I'm John Leosatos, Transportation Director of PPACG. So normally what access could be is you could have a bus stop that's sort of in the right-of-way but doesn't have sidewalk. So just filling that gap, having that access could mean that. ADA compliance is a very specific term where you have to have the correct slopes, the tactile domes for visually impaired, all those sorts of things. So the one is something where all of probably the region, in fact, all of the United States is under the gun for compliance under the ADA standards. So that's probably, again, why it's high up and their priority, while then going back and having some of these gaps in access for a more general sort of approach is probably what they're meaning with that secondary project. But again, not working for MMT, that's just a guess on my part. Someone's been doing this a while.
Since we're kind of flying a little bit blind here because we didn't have the information ahead of time, I would propose that, can we get this information out to us quickly before the October 9th meeting? Here's what I'm thinking, that we do a let's call it a conditional approval or something. We just say go ahead with it, because I don't know of any major changes. We don't know of any. But if people could get the material, look at it, and send feedback to me, because I'll be at the board meeting, and I can give them additional input from us after we've had a chance to at least look at the material for a bit. Does that sound fair? So I just need a proposal. Can we, I'm trying to think of how to do this with a, we want to recommend it, but with an asterisk beside it. I don't know how you do that officially.
Can I ask a process question? So if we approve this, what is the process for approval? Because this is for a list of projects that are priority but are not funded. So if there was funding available, would we then have the opportunity to review the list and potentially make changes? Or is it, if we approve this, then that's what the list is?
So it depends on when the money becomes available. So we have this 267 bill that the money is available, but we're not sure how much we're going to get. So essentially, the roadway prioritization list is kind of what it is right now, if we approve it. But if new money becomes available, then I'm sure they would give us opportunity to reprioritize our list as well. And they kind of want us to do this every year, so it's not set in stone. The process would be you recommend approval, it would go to the board for their final approval, and then it goes to the Transportation Commission, to who then actually decides based on a criteria that they have on what projects actually get funded through the entire state. So even if we have our priority list that we give them, that doesn't mean we're going to get money from that 267 or from others. This is just a list to say, hey, if you have money and we fit within your criteria, then this is what we would like.
John?
You said earlier that this was not necessarily it wasn't prioritized. The list that you showed us.
A portion of it.
The second half of it that was going to be funded. So why would we want to approve to prioritize it when we haven't even discussed them? I have no problem saying we got these projects, go ahead, but that the priority is going to change on some of that stuff.
Well, it won't.
Because in the years, we have taken some of these projects. We've rated them, we've scored them, you require us to. I don't see us doing anything like that this time.
No, well, we did that to develop the original list.
Right. But
And
these
then
are
they're
new
coming-
projects.
Right. Well, the projects were on the list. We prioritized the projects.
Okay.
We went through that exercise. This is just a slight shuffle of what we prioritized previously.
I think we might be getting a little confused on priority lists. We do have a 2045 document that you are talking about with that criteria, and the priority that you all did probably last year, I imagine, as well. And that list goes into our long-range plan. This list is separate from that, and it might include some of the projects because they need to be in our long-range plan. Am I getting this right, John? But there wasn't that kind of criteria because that it's a different process.
So,
and
Tim,
a
what are you
different
asking
grouping.
us to do?
So
But
it sounds like we're under the gun, or we lose any kind of input for funding. Is that correct?
yes.
Okay. So I guess what I'm asking is that we, in order not to, lose any funding, we recommended a conditional recommendation to the board, and then people can get the, if people can get the material and look it over, and between now and October 9th, send me inputs, comments, or whatever, I can give that to the board on October 9th and say, we were kind of under the gun here, but here's some additional comments. So that's what I'm proposing that
If
we do.
everybody agrees, I'll be glad to second your proposal, Tim. We don't
Okay,
need to
well,
state that again, you said it very well.
Okay, so that's my proposal, is a conditional recommendation with input from people after they've had time to digest the list.
And the reason is we're going to lose funding if we don't.
Yes.
Right.
So,
That's
So-
very important.
and that's a fair way, I think. Yes.
I think it's great to evaluate it afterwards, but then we get questions to you. You know, we can evaluate after, but we have no way of really delving into whether certain things need to be changed or
I
not.
think Catherine can field the questions. You know, I can take any additional comments or recommendations to the board. Okay, I can't answer questions because they're more involved with this than I am.
Oh, sure.
The other
So-
thing you can do is take this information back to your board members, because we're just a citizens advisory, and tell them that we've done that, because they'll be coming to that same board meeting that he'll be at.
Okay?
I'm
So-
going to also assume that this won't happen again so fast this way? Or
No,
is this
we-
normal?
And again, just to back up a little bit, the plan, at least from what we could tell here at PPACG from the state, was that they were going to finish the long-range planning effort. And I think at one point you did have someone from CDOT come and talk to you about that long-range plan, what moves you CDOT or what moves you Colorado or whatever. They were going to finish that effort, and then they were going to then look at funding these 267 funds. The Transportation Commission said, well, we're going to go ahead and elongate the process for your state long-range plan, but we want to go ahead and make recommendations now for spending these dollars. And again, the State Transportation Commission has the authority and the purview to do that. That's what is within their authorities. So they said that that's basically, everyone's got a couple of months to get us your lists, and we're going to move forward. I can tell you that at the State Transportation Advisory Committee, or STAC, there was questions around the state saying, okay, well, we're going to give you a list of projects, but how are they going to be rated? How are they going to be judged? Because if you have an emphasis on safety, we want to give you safety projects because we want to get our projects funded. If you've got an emphasis on congestion mitigation, we'll give you our congestion projects. How are we being judged? To which CDOT staff, no, they just kind of did this. So, because and again, the Transportation Commission has not provided that. So to the extent that we can make sure that we have our projects within the process, we then quickly put together the lists, and got them to the sort of the experts. So MMT with the transit list, we said, hey, Brian, you need to make sure you review the list, make sure it's updated, remove the ones that are finished, make sure you make the shuffle. But I would assume that a majority of those projects are all incorporated already within the long-range plan. So as far as, have you seen these projects before? In theory, yes. You have seen them before because they are consistent or included within our long-range plan, right? So that's for the one list. For the other list, because the funds that we're talking about are for state system, Colorado Springs can't do, the intersection of whatever and whatever, and make that part of this list. It has to be part of the state system. So we went to CDOT, our district, and said, what projects do we have that are ready to go, that are a priority? Because you can have a list that might have scored very well, very high, and if you go by, if you rank the list, it would be up there. But then again, it isn't something that would necessarily be ready to go, so therefore wouldn't be something the Transportation Commission would fund. So with an eye of what's ready to go and what is hitting the buttons of things that the Transportation Commission has recently said are their priorities, that's why one of the top project is the powers and research, because that has a lot of elements with safety And is that pedestrian thing, is that the right project? Anyway, it's one of those projects that kind of hits the high spots. So we wanted to make sure that is probably our best bet to get any part of these funds that get distributed. It is possible that the State Transportation Commission could say, well, we're going to put all of the money into road maintenance, and we're not going to pick any projects. Or they're going to say, we're going to take the first X amount of dollars off the top, and we're going to change all of the light bulbs in the Eisenhower Tunnel because they're not LED, and we could save money by doing that. Right? So because we don't know what the process is, that's why the list is sort of where we're at. And that's why the list also includes sort of the non-prioritized things, because at some point, if they're just handing out crumbs, we'd much rather get crumbs than nothing at all. So if the first 5 projects are too expensive for the funds that are left, and they can go down the list and throw us something, we'd much rather get something than nothing. That's why we have a complete list rather than a completely prioritized list. And quite frankly, it would be one of those things if we went to our TAC and said, hey, we need you to prioritize this whole list from beginning to end. That would be a very long process, and it would be us not respecting their time, because it's very unlikely we're going to get down to that part of it. That being said, we want to cover all our bases and get every penny that we can, because, quite frankly, that's our job. So back to where we're at today. I cannot promise you that this won't happen again. We are merely reacting to the cards we've been dealt, and quite frankly, I've been doing this a while. I got the gray hairs to show it. It doesn't matter if you're in Arizona or in Colorado. These things will always happen. The best thing we can do is be prepared as best we can so that we can react to whatever the situation is. As far as this particular list, yes, we would look for your approval today. If you do have questions, send them to Catherine, and of course copy the chair on that. We'll probably end up getting either Brian or CDOT to respond to that question to make sure that we're being responsive to what your concerns are. If you do have something where you think that, hey, we're not comfortable with this, we gave it an approval, but not, you'll need to make sure that we know that as staff, because we will be an action item while your CAC report will be towards the back of the agenda. And
Yes.
I don't want them to adopt it and having get up and say, well, we didn't really want to approve what you just did. So if you let us know, we'll make sure that during the presentation or during the action item that you have that opportunity.
Yeah, we'll talk.
So
the other thing I think is important that people understand, there's no partial funding. So if for example, if we get $30 million, they're not going to fund the number one project, right?
Right.
They'll go down the list to what can be done with $30 million. Mm-hmm. Can't build half a bridge.
Well, you could, and
Well,
it makes
you
it kind of
could.
exciting, but apparently safety is an issue.
It'd be more like the Blues Brothers. Anyway, John.
Well, the other thing it's good to have is small projects in there, no matter what list they're on, because in the couple of years I've been here, you see projects come in under budget, they get funding from another source, and if you've got projects on those lists that are small, some couple $100,000, which is small to them, there's a good chance you need to have those things in a somewhat ready position for you guys, because that makes a difference.
Well said. Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. So again, the proposal on the table right now is a conditional recommendation for approval with comments, questions going to Catherine, comments coming to me before the official board meeting, and we will talk
Right.
before I get up and talk.
And if I may, I mean, there's really no difference between a conditional approval and approval. You might as well just approve it, and quite frankly, if during the course of the discussions, it's at question, then you can come up and say, yeah, the CAC had questions after the fact because we were given it the day of the meeting. But if you feel better with that word, you can certainly put that in there.
Yeah, I feel better with that word.
Sure.
Because that kind of flags people ahead of time that we might have some concerns, that it wasn't just, approved. Functionally, if it's the same, then we're okay.
Yeah.
Okay?
I second your motion.
All right, John seconds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Passes. All right, we are now on to
Thank you.
Area Agency on Aging. They probably aged a lot while they were waiting for their turn.
Good afternoon. Oh, she turned it off. There we go. Good afternoon, Joe Urban, Area Agency on Aging. We come to you to do basically what amounts to an annual report, kind of what we've done over the course of the past year. And then I have the opportunity to take care of a little bit of other business while I'm here. I will be retiring next Tuesday, and my replacement is standing next to me, Mr. Jody Barker, who has a long and storied history in senior services in the city of Colorado Springs, and I would encourage you to take the opportunity, maybe visit with him later today or at some point, and learn a little bit more about the background that he has, and find out a little bit more about what his vision is for the future. Melissa, I am not Melissa Martz, who is on your agenda. Melissa's sitting back observing what we do right now. But we wanted to take a few minutes to just kind of hit some highlights of what the area agency has done over the course of last year. I believe you've got some paperwork in front of you, and I'd like to maybe touch base on just a few of those things. Those numbers sometimes get a little bit staggering, but if you break them down into days and the number of people we serve, they mean a little bit more. In the area of case management, we served roughly 5,000 hours of home care vouchers. That's folks who aren't able to maybe do their own housekeeping, do some of the things around the house, and don't, quite frankly, cannot afford to have somebody come in and help them with it. So it enables them to stay at home, which is always our primary focus. 2,500 counseling sessions. Those sessions sometimes are 15 minutes long, sometimes they're 4 hours long. So a fairly good number there. Handled well over 7,000 calls for assistance. Orrin over here handled probably 6,000 of those himself, I think. We get everything from a simple, here's the phone number for Silver Key, to some very complex questions. And I think most of you know that we staff those incoming calls with a incredibly qualified volunteer staff. Those are unpaid folks that answer those calls, and they do an absolute marvelous job in terms of getting people to the right place. If a question is very, very complicated and they need to know about maybe Medicaid qualification or SNAP or utility assistance, then we will forward those to a case manager who can assist that person in getting more information about that. The Ombudsman responded to 236 reports, in other words, 236 requests for their service to come to their aid because they're not happy with the way maybe services are going at the licensed facility they're at. A highlight that just happened last week actually is Scott Bartlett, our lead ombudsman, our ombudsman supervisor, was just appointed to the boards and commissions on the Veterans Community Living Center board. So he'll have an active voice in where those Veterans Community Centers are located in the future and how they operate. There's a whole bunch of numbers on the back if you like numbers. And then there's a summary of our 4-year plan. We affectionately call it the 4-year plan. It's actually called the area plan. And it's some targets for us to shoot for over the next 4 years. Kind of in between a strategic plan that may be 10 to 15 years out and a 1-year plan that's your immediate goals. The addition of Melissa has been a huge benefit to us in terms of those short-term goals and the long-term goals for that matter. But she has been able to kind of codify a lot of that and make it into a identifiable plan and how are we going to get there, not just what are we going to do, but how are we going to get there. So we're very happy with that. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Jody would be happy to answer any questions. He's had 4 days of me spouting in his ear, and I think he's about ready to take that fire hose out of his mouth.
Any questions?
Great.
How many employees and volunteers?
We have 13 full-time staff, or excuse me, 12 full-time staff, 2 part-time staff, and roughly 20 volunteers. We have volunteers in kind of two sets. We have the volunteers that staff the front desk, and then we have a number of volunteers that do exclusively insurance counseling. They are certified SHIP, what we call SHIP counselors, State Health Insurance Program counselors. We are the state health insurance program for a 9-county region, so it extends well beyond the COG.
Do they cover Medicare?
That's about all they
Questions?
cover.
Yeah,
is
that's what I
Medicare.
figured. They'll ramp up pretty quick here.
On October 15th, there will be a steady stream through that door until December 7th. We haven't gotten last year's numbers exactly nailed down yet because it's changed. The process has changed. The year before, we saw about 1,600 people in that 17-week period, or 7-week period, excuse me. And that includes phone calls as well as walk-ins. This year, Medicare has changed the process substantially. You have to have a Medicare.gov account before we can talk to you. So a lot of the folks that walk through the door this year, instead of just giving them information, we'll be helping them set up their Medicare.gov account and then talking to them about the questions that they have.
John?
A number of years back, we came in, and the staff here was just excellent, and original Medicare, or what plan you're going to use, and supplements. If you have anybody back in your area, send them down here after that starts, because people that are confused, and some of that stuff is confusing, have those people come down here, because their counselors do an excellent job of telling you, working your way through all that.
We're very happy about the fact that we have probably the most qualified, well, we have the Medicare trainer for the state, who is Roma Costanza, who is offices here. But we don't have what I like to say, we don't have a horse in the game. We sell no products. We don't endorse any specific type of insurance supplement or replacement plan. So we can give completely unbiased information, where if you're going out to somebody in the community that's going to sell you a product afterwards, it's maybe not the same motivation.
And the other thing, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think you still do this. If you have a community and you put together, using one of your facilities there, they will come up there if you get enough folks, and they'll put it on in your city for you.
Absolutely.
They will do that. That's
Happy
a really
to.
good thing that they do.
Happy to, yeah. We have just recently instituted a program where we are broadcasting webinars of our Medicare 101 classes, which take place right here. And they're about a 2-hour seminar on the basics of Medicare, particularly for people who are just entering that market, the 64-and-a-half-year-olds or the 65-year-olds. And we are sending those out to that 9-county region, actually statewide if people want to log in. We've got a lot of libraries, community centers, churches that are setting up watch parties in these smaller communities that may not have real good broadband, and being able to get that information out to a bigger group. Thanks. Oh, ma'am.
Question. I was just interested, in legal assistance.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have volunteer attorneys that do that, or how do you help people like, what have you got here? Powers of attorney, guardianships, and so on.
We fund Colorado Legal Services, which is a statewide organization. They have a Colorado Springs branch that's located right next to the police station over on Nevada. And we fund them, and then we refer most of our legal questions to them. They do powers of attorney. They do a lot of landlord disputes. They do a wide variety of different types of law, and do a really good job of it. Some of those are pro bono lawyers that are doing that. Some of them are folks that we pay for.
Okay. So this would be for lower income people, of course, that need pro bono help. And
predominantly, that's who goes there. All of our services are not limited by income. They are only limited by age. So anybody over 60 can access our services. The example I use over and over again is Bill Gates could walk through that door and ask for free transportation and a free meal, and he would get it.
I didn't know that. Well, thank you. Thank you.
Yep.
And the Yellow Book, that resource guide, also has a list of other agencies besides Colorado Legal Services, and all of them have kind of just specialties that they try to help with so that there's maybe 20 different places that people can call and get some free or very low-cost legal advice about a lot of different things.
They refer to those.
Yeah, I don't give anybody legal advice, believe me, so, sorry. But there's a bunch of different outlets, although Colorado Legal Services is by far the biggest. We don't fund that completely, though. They have other funding sources.
They have other
right?
funding
Yeah.
sources, but we fund a good chunk of the work that they do for folks over 60. And it's a great segue from Orrin about, if you don't know what this is, which I don't know very many people that don't know what that is, then ask us. We print 26,000 of these this year, and the primary resource for anything relative to seniors. And then a lot of people don't know about this book, which just came out a few weeks ago. This is a 101 on veteran benefits and Medicaid benefits. So it gives the basics of what does it take to qualify for each of those, how do you apply. Obviously, those are fairly complicated, so we can't tell everything, but it's a real good resource to where do you apply, how do you apply, and what are the basic needs that I have to be able to do that.
They are. There's actually a selection of both books in the back, as well as information about the Area Agency on Aging participation in Arts Month, and some of the activities for seniors and others who are interested to engage in. There's also, I know there's something else over there relating to the new podcast. The Area Agency on Aging will be
Thank
doing
you.
a podcast. So there's also a flyer back there on this right-hand side to the snacks. It has information on that as well.
Okay, John?
If you pick some of those up, you can take them to your libraries.
Could
And
we?
places like that is a periodic where the people can sit down and read it back so you don't take all their supply.
Yeah,
And that would be an excellent thing to have in a lot of small communities. They're very good books.
Could I take one or two up to the town hall in Green Mountain Falls?
Take as many as you want.
Okay.
We got 26,000 of these.
I've got it for myself, but then I thought, well, yeah.
We direct deliver these to the libraries in Colorado Springs, so the East Library, Penrose, we direct deliver a few thousand because they are such large distributors.
people,
But
yeah.
you're welcome to, there's 30 in a case. We're welcome to give whatever you want.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All right, thanks.
Thank you. If anybody's bored tomorrow morning, Mr. Barker and I will be on KRDO from 9 o'clock until 10 o'clock talking about the area agency. So.
That way we can be excited and proud.
Yeah.
All right, on to agenda item 6, member discussion. That's what I figured.
What is member discussion? I mean, what you just give a little news or something?
Yeah, that's where we kind of update people on what's going on in the,
Well, in Green Mountain Falls, we had a meeting a week ago last Saturday. You don't have to write all this down, but it was the Upper South Platte, I can't think what it is, but we're working, yeah, that's it. Cusp. And we had a nice meeting where a lot of people came. We had a potluck, and people signed up to have, my family and I met Monday with a ranger on our property about fire control, getting rid of that sort of thing up in the mountains. And I think Green Mountain Falls, Woodland Park, all of us in the mountains are working hard on fire mitigation and getting a lot of help. The company that you used to work for, Colorado Springs Utilities, is doing a lot of work in interfacing with state and local people with healthy forests. I believe they're trying to call it to do what we can. So you don't have to write it down, but that is what we're working on. And we have a new town manager, a wonderful young woman who's very knowledgeable, and a town planner. So we're kind of getting modern up here.
anybody else?
We have a business and community expo coming up in Monument. It's going to be at the Twilight Lakes YMCA on October 17th, and it's going to be from 4 to 7. It's completely free to attend. There's 103 vendor spaces, and we're 3 from selling out, so I'm assuming we will. So it's just a lot of great information for people that live up in the northern El Paso County area if you want to do business local.
Yes.
I do want to chime in just real quick. As Catherine was talking to you about the draft for public release, she mentioned that we're going to have online public comment from October 10th through November 8th. We will also be doing 2 in-person public houses. We'll be doing one October 15th at 4 p.m. here at PPACG, and there will be another one taking place October 19th at noon at the Sand Creek Library. So if you know people who need to get a little more information and want to speak up, but don't use the internet too much, it's a great time.
These aren't in,
They are not.
they are not
set
here.
when that calendar-
This is a good addition to your packet, by the way. It has a lot of very good information in it. So it's good to at least take a quick browse through that. All I got for Colorado Springs is watch out for all the construction. We got stadiums gone up, we got arenas gone up, we got hotels gone up, we got PPRTA, streets being fixed. It's a mess. Yes, Julie.
Before we meet next, ballots will have come out, so the election is nearly upon us.
Yes.
League is doing a ballot issue pro and con presentation October 9th at East Library, if people are interested. It's 6:30 to 8:30. And we have vote411.org, which also includes candidate questions. And I don't know if it goes to all the furthest reaches of the county, but it certainly covers Colorado Springs and several school districts that are having elections, and probably the Manitou mayor. So check that out. Thanks.
Okay. Any items for the next meeting? Any burning issues people would like to hear about, since we heard about the gap? All right.
I'm going to chime in there. At our next meeting, we will be discussing our November and December meeting schedules. Our November meeting is currently scheduled for the day before Thanksgiving, and our December meeting is currently scheduled on Christmas Day.
So we will change that.
So we will be discussing how we would like to go around that, whether we'd just like to combine the 2 meetings and do them the first week of December or the third week of December. So you'll all be getting some reach out on that, but you don't need to reserve those 2 days in November and December and plan to come here. I'm sure you all were, but you don't need to.
Okay. Julie?
We should have a group picture. Maybe we could try that.
Wouldn't it be
We'll
awesome?
try that. We'll try again at the next meeting to do that. So, all right. That's it. We are adjourned.
Tell everyone it's a holiday party, and then they'll all come.
Yeah.
I'll make cookies. There'll be photo cookies. Yes. Because I had not gotten that updated yet. Because we were given, I don't know if you noticed, Donna D. was the new El Paso County representative. I'm hoping so, but she's the new El Paso County rep, so I got the 2 of you mixed up, which is why yours says El Paso County.
I just thought for some reason it got approved as that.
No, it is not, no.
That's wrong. And then the name tag just like got mixed back in, so,
Yeah.
okay. It'll be fixed for the next one.
You're probably starting to sit, and I'm not to sit. Because I never did any